Okay, I'm going to have you work on these 4 problems in your notebook and bring them to class. So I'll give you a second to pause. If you're completed with those, we're going to go through numbers 1 and 3 just to make sure that you've got it. We'll go through 2 and 4 in class. So number 1, I see that there's a number in front of the x squared. First thing I want to try is, can I factor it out of every term? And I see that I can, so I'm going to pull that 8 out and make it x squared minus 7x plus 6. So now I see that I can just factor this the easy way into 2 binomials. So split up my x's to make x squared and split up my 6 into 2 numbers. So I could do 2 and 3, or I could do 6 and 1. Either way, it needs to make -7. So the only option that would work would be a -6 and a -1. -6 times -1 makes 6. -6 plus 1 is equal to -7. Now let's check through number 3. First, I see a number here. I want to see if I could factor it out, and I can't. So I can't do it the easy way. I'm going to have to do it the more difficult way. So I still know 2 binomials. I still know my x and my x. The only thing is I need to have some numbers in front of there that would multiply it together to get 2. So I'm going to put my little f for first, and I know that there's going to be a 1 and a 2. The last term I know needs to multiply together to get 5, so I could have a 1 and a 5. So 2 times 1 makes my first term, 5 times 1 makes my last term, but now I need to find a combination that would make my outer and my inner work to get to -7. So I could try 1 times 1 would be 1, 2 times 5 would be 7. So 7 and 1 doesn't make 7. So I would try this way. 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times 1 is 2. 5 and 2 do make 7. So I'm going to connect those. 5 times 1 makes 5, 2 times 1 makes 2, and 2 plus 5 does equal 7. Now I notice that I need to have a negative sum, which means both of these need to be negative. I know that my first terms are a 1 and a 2, and then I know that my 1 needs to go with the 5, so I'm going to think of that extra large eyebrow, or the outer terms. The 1 needs to go with the 5, and the 2 needs to go with a 1. Now, you might have 2x minus 5 in the front, and you might have x minus 1 over here. Those would be the same thing. I would want to check to make sure I was right, and I get 2x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 5, so 2x squared minus 7x plus 5, and see if I'm right, and I am. So now we're going to go on to a little bit different, same type of thing, number in the front, it's a trinomial, the number doesn't factor out. The only difference is that my last term is in negative. And we've dealt with this before, and we just know that now in my binomials, I'm going to have different signs. One is going to be a plus and one is going to be a minus in order to multiply together to make a negative. And then we know that if we have a positive and a negative, if we combine them, we're actually subtracting. So that's going to be the only difference here. I'm still going to think of f as my first term. My options are 2 times 1. Not a lot of options there. My last term, 7 times 1. Not a lot of options. So when doing this, I want to find 2 combinations where I multiply here. So I could do 14 and 1. The only difference is because they're going to be one's positive and one's negative, they have to subtract. And I get 14 minus 1. That does not equal 5. So this combination, the 2 and the 7, the 1 and the 1, is not going to work. So I'm going to have to go this way and try 2 times 1 is 2. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 and 2 do subtract to get 5. So I know 2 and 1 are my first terms, so 2, and it has to have an x, and 1x. 2x times x would equal 2x squared. And I know that my last terms need to be 7 and 1, but I learned that my 2 has to go with my 1. So that great big eyebrow, 2 and 1. And then I need for my 1 to go with my 7. So here's my 1 on the inside and my 7. And now my issue is which one's going to be positive and which one's going to be negative. So sometimes we just look at these numbers, 7 and 1, and see which one's bigger. But what we actually have to look at is that product. We want this product to be negative because the middle term is negative. So I want the product that is going to be negative to be the bigger one. So I have my 2 or my 7, and I want it to be my 7. So I'm going to check that just to make sure. So 2x times 1x is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. Negative 7 times 1x would be negative 7x. And negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. So I get 2x squared minus 5x minus 7. And that is what I wanted. So this is the correct factored form. So I'm going to give you some more that I want you to do and bring to class. So I'll give you a second to pause that. Then we're just going to check through number 5. This one's got a lot of options, so it's going to be a little bit harder. So I see that there's no number that goes into all of them. So that means I'm going to have to do this the more difficult way, which means kind of writing out all of my options for the first term. So I've got 2 and 3, and 6 and 1. My last term, I've got a lot here. So I've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So I'm going to separate those so I don't get them all confused. I know that I'm going to have an x here and an x here, and because this is negative, I'm looking for products that subtract to get 1. So I'm going to try 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 12 is 36. 36 and 2 do not subtract to 1. So I'm going to try to go about it this way. 2 and 12 is 24, 3 and 1 makes 3. 24 and 3 still don't subtract. So now I'm going to pass this up and I'm going to go 2 and 2 is 4. 3 and 6 is 18. 18 and 4 don't subtract to get 1. So that doesn't work, so I'm going to switch that up and kind of crisscross. 2 and 6 is 12. 3 times 2 is 6. 12 and 6 still don't work to make 1, so I'm going to go on to the next one. 2 and 3 makes 6. 3 and 4 is 12. That doesn't work. So I'm going to do the crisscross and do the 2 and 4 is 8. 3 and 3 is 9. And 8 and 9 do subtract to get 1. Okay, so I can see that these are not going to be my options. It's going to be the 2 and the 3 are going to be my first ones, so I'm just going to write them in. And the 3 and the 4. But I need to make sure that I put the outer and the inner together. And the 3 had to go together with the 3. So my 3 and 3 have to be my little smile there. And then the 2 and the 4 had to go together. Now, I know that I want my bigger product to be positive. And I had my bigger product was 3 and 3 to make 9. So I want my 9 to be the positive. So I need this to be positive, and I want my 2 times 4 to be the negative. So I have to put that. Then I would multiply them to check and make sure I've got the correct answer. So I would have 6x squared minus 8x plus 9x minus 12. So 6x squared plus 1x minus 12. So checking those, I know that I am right. Okay, and there you go. We'll check number 6 in class.